All right, hi everybody. If you don't know me already, my name is Kelly. I own Dogkind and I specialize in confidence building for very fearful, semi-feral, shutdown dogs. And today we're talking about dogs who are afraid of the leash and whether or not leaving a leash attached to them is a good or bad idea. Will they get used to it or will it make things worse? This is a piece of advice I've seen repeated several times, so I thought it would be a good idea to talk about it together. Dog afraid of the leash? Will they just get used to it? Who is this for? This is for you if you have a dog who's afraid of the leash and you've heard that you should just leave the leash on them and they should get used to it, but you're not sure if that's a good idea. So, should I leave the leash on if my dog is afraid of it? The short answer is no. We're going to talk about this more, of course, but I do not recommend this as a strategy for getting a dog used to a leash, leaving it on them so they're dragging it. Okay, why not? Why not leave the leash on? Well, for one, imagine just how scary it would be if you were terrified of something. I don't know, maybe you have a spider phobia or snakes or whatever. Imagine having something attached to your body that you're afraid of and you can't get away. That's just a really horrible thing. So we don't want to do that to our dogs. But from a practical standpoint, it can also make fear of the leash worse. They can sensitize, it just, they can't get away from it. It's terrifying. And from the human side of things, it really is a very efficient way to break trust with you. And by breaking trust, I mean your dog learns that various things are associated with scary stuff or bad experiences or unpleasant experiences. For example, you reaching toward your dog, which you would have to do to put a leash on, that could become associated with bad things, and so your dog will not stand still in the future when you try to reach toward them. Your approach, which you have to do to leash your dog, again, if they learn that if they just hang around or approach you when you're approaching and a leash might be put on them, they may decide that in the future, if you start approaching, they are going to run away. And worst case scenario is that you yourself, in many different situations, may become associated in your dog's mind with bad things, and so they will start to avoid you. Now, I hear often, oh, but my friend did that with their puppy and it was fine, or, my neighbor said this worked with all of her dogs, and so why might that be? For one, even an approach that isn't really the best thing to do can sometimes work, right? Despite the fact that it's not the best way to go about it. When you have a lot of those dogs as well, may not have actually been afraid of the leash, and so that could affect the outcome. Those of you who are in my audience have fearful dogs, and if they're afraid of the leash and you clip a leash on them, they could stop responding negatively to it, at least negatively in big obvious ways, but that might happen for bad reasons rather than good reasons. So a dog who's afraid of a leash and learns they can't get away from it might stop trying to run away from it, not because they become comfortable with it, but because they've learned that they can't do anything about it. So they're not happy about it, they're not comfortable, but you may have heard this term before. They are experiencing learned helplessness or escape extinction has occurred. All their attempts to get away from the scary thing don't work, so they just give up. And that's not what we want for our dogs. So overall, it's a gamble with your dog's trust and your future ability to leash them if you try to force the leash and leave it on them. So you may be asking, what can I do then? What should I do instead? How do I get my dog comfortable with the leash if they won't just get used to it if I put it on them? And these are my recommendations. Gradually introduce the leash using positive reinforcement training. And this is the hard part for a lot of people to figure out how to do. In the meantime, if at all possible, do not force it. Do not force the leash on your dog. Here are a few clips, just a really quick overview of what some of that positive reinforcement training for leashing looked like with my little guy Pancake. So here early on, he's just sniffing the leash, and he gets a treat for just sniffing the leash, and I'm not touching the leash. Later on, just looking at the clip when I lift it up, but I don't move it toward him. Now I'm moving it toward him a little. And this is much accelerated. I didn't do all of this in one day. I'm just showing you examples of some of the steps. There, I held it out and waited for him to sniff it. And then you're going to start to see, in a second here, a little bit of moving it toward his collar. So he sniffed it there. When he nose targeted it, then the next thing I do is give him a treat to get his head up and then just touch the collar with the leash. So we worked up, and there it is, now the leash is on there. So we worked up to this slowly in tiny steps so that he was totally comfortable having the leash put on. These might be some of the challenges you face. What if I have to leash my dog to take them out to potty? One thing you could consider, and I do have a separate blog and video on this, is think about setting up an indoor potty area. It may be temporary, probably will be temporary, but it will allow you to avoid forcing a leash on your dog, which will make it, if you're doing that, it's really hard to train your dog to be comfortable with the leash, if also sometimes they're being terrified by the leash. So a way to troubleshoot that problem is an indoor potty area. What if you feel like your dog really needs the exercise of a walk? You could learn more about in-home exercise and enrichment activities, and there are a lot of really great ones. How about, well, I really have to leash my dog to take them to the vet. So this may not be possible always to find a workaround for, but you could look around in the area you live in to see if there are mobile vets available who will come to your home. Actually, even large dogs I've seen carried to the car in a crate. Whether or not that is more or less stressful for your dog than being leashed, you would have to decide. And smaller dogs are easier, of course, to transport in a crate or carrier. So those are some ways to get to the vet without having to leash your dog. So in summary, forcing a leash onto a dog who is afraid of the leash can cause them more problems. Instead, I recommend using positive reinforcement training and introducing the leash gradually. And you may need to get creative to avoid needing to force the leashing until your dog is ready for it. So if you don't already have the free PDF worksheet, how to make your fearful dog happier, you can grab it here, dogkindtraining.com/happy. I hope this was a useful lesson for you, and I will see you next week.